This is the Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast as a service to the Nebraska Greats Foundation, which serves former collegiate athletes facing medical needs and financial challenges. Your tax-deductible contribution will change the life of a former college sports hero. Please give online at negreats.org. And now, here's your host, Jim Rose.
Brent, offensive line in Nebraska, as an offensive lineman, you came to Nebraska for a reason, I suspect, and that is I want to be the next great one, or I want to be a part of the next great line. Give me your impression of offensive line play this past season.
Yeah, you kind of answered why I came to Nebraska, the lineage of it as far as like all the great players who not only succeeded at the collegiate level, earning, all types of accolades, but then also transitioning into the NFL and professional level. I mean, there's a huge line of guys, and I'm honored to be a part of that. And then as far as the line play this year, it has been good at times. It's, I think we can all agree there's been some areas that needed improvement throughout the year. Unfortunately, they, felt that they need to make a coaching change at that position too. So it's just something that, as these guys are younger. The O-line this year is really young. It takes 2 or 3 years just of practicing at the collegiate level to really get gelled and get up to speed and get strong enough and all that stuff to where you're really ready to go to go out on the field and perform on a consistent level and consistent play that results in wins.
Your time in Nebraska, and I think at least this has always been the case, your time in Nebraska is a reflection of what the offensive philosophy at that time was. When you were being recruited, how much philosophy, scheme, how much of here's how we're going to do things and here's why your skill set is exactly what we want came into the conversation?
The main part when I was getting recruited was like, obviously you're a big kid at that point, and I'm like 17 years old. And they felt, they liked my film. They felt I was physical, and that was kind of the identity they wanted to, have on the field. We're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to be physical. We're going to have, good running backs to do that with. It's hard recruiting, high school kids and trying to teach scheme because a high school offense compared to a college offense, there's really no comparison. I think, my high school offense, we had like a wristband with 20 plays maybe, and we just, recycled through all those plays and things like that compared to what you do in college with the formations and motions and, audibles and things like that. And then, obviously at the NFL, it's even a whole nother level. So that's something. But as far as scheme and kind of philosophy, that was a big part of it. We're going to run the ball. We're going to be physical. We feel that you're going to fit in here as far as like the mentality and also like the mental side of things too. Just growing up in North Dakota, coming down to Lincoln, Nebraska, it just felt like home. It felt like a great fit, and it was, and it has been.
You were recruited as a guard, played guard earlier in your career, and then moved to left tackle. You were recruited under Bo, so we weren't running the option anymore. We weren't running the kind of offense that you probably watched Nebraska run growing up. Certainly hearing about. What was it about the situation at the time that made you think, yeah, this is exactly the right fit for my talent? Or was it, hey, I just want to go to Nebraska, play offensive line in Nebraska, and wherever I wind up is good?
Yeah, my first trip down here, I came down to like a one-day recruit camp and was able to get an offer that day after, testing out with all the other guys and things like that. And I left I left the camp and looked at my parents were with me, and I was like, yeah, we can stop now. Like, I don't need to look anywhere else. I was ready to go. And, my parents were kind of like, well, because we also checked out a few other schools after Nebraska, but I was already kind of out of it. I was already ready to just be like, all right, cool, I'll see you next fall and head back home kind of deal. But I went and checked out a few other schools in the Big 10, Big 12, and nothing just felt the same as coming here. And I luckily, my dad played in college and he played in the NFL for a little bit. So he's like, they might recruit you at one spot. You just got to get in there and do what you need to do to get on the field. And that's kind of the approach that I took in college. It took till my fourth year to start. And it took longer than I wanted to be honest, but that's just part of the game. That's part of growing and maturing. And, you come in at 18 years old and, I was a chubby little kid from North Dakota and, let the strength staff get after you for 3 or 4 years. And then you're ready to play against, some very good competition. So I think that's just something that for me personally, just going back to the question, like I knew right away, I really love Bo. I love playing for Bo. He was tough, but it was tough love in the best way, but he always had your back as a player. And I credit, Coach Bo for all of my being able to, play 8 years in the NFL so far.
What do you think is the single most important thing to being a successful offensive lineman in college? You just mentioned it was not until my fourth year when I started at Nebraska. And you wound up playing in the NFL for 63 games, okay? Not starting until your fourth year. So what's the differentiator? What's the differentiator, or what was the differentiator for you? And as you watch college linemen today, Brent Qvale, what do you see that they're missing?
Consistency and patience are my two big takeaways from my personal experiences. That guys come in nowadays, and I get it, like you're recruited and you want to play right away. And that has changed over the last, it's already been 13 years since I got recruited. So things things have changed as far as like everybody wants the result right now. And it's really hard to just kind of like go through the process in a way. And that's kind of what Nebraska is going through in a way. There's some guys playing now that are younger on the offensive line. There's some other offensive skill positions that you see some older guys stepping in, a couple of transfers and things like that. They're older and they've played, college football for many years and they're having success. So it's like, it's just part of the thing now about being consistent, being patient, and just trusting it, because your body needs that time to get ready to go. And like, as hard as, spring ball was never fun. Like, it's a hard 5-6 weeks in the spring, but that's where you make your biggest gains, because you get stronger in the winter. You get these big practices in the spring. And then by the time fall camp rolls around and you go against other teams, you realize like, oh, we did get better. Now when you go against someone else, that's when you really see the improvements.
When you came to Nebraska, program was still real competitive. We were in and out of the top 25, in and out of the top 10 from here to there. What did you see as the critical difference between then and now? It has been a problem. We've seen what's happened here, 5 consecutive losing seasons. That was unheard of when you came to Nebraska. And when you came to Nebraska, they were, 10 years removed from their last conference championship. What's happened?
Yeah. When we were there, I wish I had, the one sentence answer to that question. I don't know, like when we were here, I know Coach Frost pushes them. Coach Bo pushed us, everything. There was just like a level when we came here that you were held to that level or you weren't going to play. And a lot of times if you didn't live up to the level, you were gone. And I think that slipped off after Bo left with, unfortunately Coach Riley. That was not the best couple years, 3 years. And then Coach Frost kind of inherited a lot of that, and he's been working to get it back, but unfortunately it's not showing up on the field. And that's always hard to see. That's kind of what the consistent and patient, it's delayed gratification. And that's what I think everyone's ready for. It's year 4. I think everyone was expecting, me included as a fan of the program now, to see more wins. Because when Nebraska's winning, and when we were going 9-4 and 10-4, and like it hurt us. I played I was a part of. I didn't play. I was redshirting in 2009, the Texas Big 12 conference game, And then we went to Oklahoma and let that one get away. That still bugs me and everyone else to this day. And then obviously against Wisconsin in 2012, when we kind of got our boots kicked in, for lack of a better term. But it's just, I don't know. I guess, when we were playing an inferior opponent, we were able to kind of hand it to them early usually and kind of get through. And it was those tough games, like for when I was playing 2012, 2013, UCLA, we lost both of those. And those were both games we should have won, and then other conference games and things like that. But it's just the consistency and the like attention to detail, I think, is the two hardest things to do. And the teams that do it the best are the teams that usually end up winning.
Visiting with Brent Qvale, former Husker standout offensive lineman, undrafted free agent, but he played in the NFL for 3 different teams, 63 games in the NFL. And you have the unique experience of seeing the transition from the Big 12 to the Big 10. Because you straddled Nebraska's Big 12, Big 10. What is the closest proximity to the NFL of the two conferences? Two very different cultural conferences. But as it relates to the NFL, because, you get recruited in some measure, especially a guy like you, great size. You were Mr. Basketball in the state of North Dakota, your senior year. So athletic ability was clearly there. The idea is we're going to help you get to the next level. So playing in the Big 12, playing in the Big 10, what is closer to the NFL?
Yeah, I think the the answer speaks for itself with the top 25 rankings right now. The Big 10 is, clearly a superior conference right now to the Big 12, to, not compared to the old Big 12, but right now the Big 10 is, as far as NFL caliber players. You see, we lined up against Ohio State last weekend. How many NFL players were playing? I know the one receiver is probably the top receiver in the draft, things like that. You're going against that competition. Michigan is, I don't know where they're at now. I know they're probably top 10. Michigan State's still top 10. Wisconsin, no matter what their record is, they're always tough. Iowa's always tough. As far as the NFL caliber, as of right now, the Big 10 is definitely more NFL experience, gets you ready to play. And also the Big 10 has more. The NFL hasn't really adopted the quick spread, fast tempo stuff as much. It's getting more and more every year that I've played. It's, they've added new, we've always added like tempo packages and stuff that we've always had, but there's no true like spread all out team. Maybe the Cardinals now with Kyler Murray and things like that. But like big, like Iowa still huddles, Wisconsin huddles, like that's kind of unheard of in the college game right now, but that's still how the NFL does it. And I don't like, the NFL is a very stubborn league, so they're probably not going to be changing. A lot of those coordinators are pretty stubborn at the NFL level. So we'll see. I don't think that the NFL is changing anytime soon.
Yeah. How important is it? I just thinking all these years, I just got to believe that one of the things that probably served Nebraska football really well all those years was that they knew exactly what they were on Monday before practice. We know exactly what we are. We know exactly what we do. We don't change for the opponent. We go out, do what we do. You talked about consistency. You talked about patience, consistency, and just getting everything right the first time and consistently. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering today how, if Nebraska is suffering from not having an offensive identity that was as clear as it used to be. And it's not just for the skill players. Skill players know what their job's going to be, but it's for the linemen. You guys know this is what we do, okay? We don't do everything, but we do this. Do you sense that in the program?
There's been times like this year where I just felt, I don't know, I feel like that, they're trying things and it's not working. And then you got to try and switch it up. But at the same time, when you come into the game and your bread and butter schemes and plays aren't working, then it's time. Then is it time for a change? Then probably to figure out what your identity is. And that's, and that was hard. Like in 2020 with like the COVID shortening season, all that. So then you miss out on practice to figure out what your identity is. But coming out this year, like obviously that's the hardest part about college to me too, is there's no preseason games. So you kind of just, whatever you're doing in practice has to work and come into to that first game. Whereas in the NFL, you go through those three preseason games, you can kind of figure out what kind of scheme works best for your players. And that's where it's harder in college, because you establish an identity in spring ball and training camp, and that identity better work when it comes to the real games. And if it doesn't, then you're in for a long season. And I think that's part of what has happened. The coaching staff, the players, they had an idea, they had a plan of what they wanted to do this season with certain guys, certain players, certain skill positions. Obviously, they shuffled the offensive line about halfway through the year. So you had a plan going in, but if you don't have any real game experience until then, it's hard to switch mid-season.
I just think, for a college player, it's you play in the NFL, so these are professionals. This is their livelihood. This is all they do virtually every day of the year. Even when you're not playing, you're thinking about the season and your off-season program or rehabbing from injury. But a college kid needs to know, this is my job, okay? I have one job to do. It's this job. We're going to be successful doing it. I can't be this for this week. And then next week, they're going to say, okay, we're going to throw the ball 50 times this week. Last week, we ran the ball 75 times. To me, it's very difficult for a young lineman to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's especially when you're playing younger guys too. A lot of times those guys are good at one or two things, and so you have to figure out what your starting players are good at first off, and then you have to, build your offense, build your line, build your running combinations and schemes off of that. Plus your pass protection too. I've seen like Nebraska has switched up their pass, their play action pass stuff. And I've seen some new plays where they're getting, like Juergens out on the edge, because he's clear, like he's probably the best lineman. So they are getting him out on the edge to seal and, set up and give a good protection for Adrian to, sit back there and make some big throws. And it's worked. They've connected on a lot of big throws off of things like that. So I think that's been a good adjustment, just seeing that now, to where taking a little pressure off the tackles, let them kind of all pinch into the middle, let Juergens seal the edge, and let Adrian have that run pass option. So yeah, but like you said, you can't go throw it 40 times, then the next game be like, well, we're going to run it 50 times this game. No matter what we're going to do, it's like it doesn't work like that. And that's where that patience and consistency, where you can develop both a run and a pass, a good pass set, but also understanding your angles and your pad level and things like that. So,
and there's a limited amount of practice time. The NC2A has taken out a lot of practice time. One more thing before I let you go, Brent Qvale. New York Jets. What's the issue? I mean, is there a cloud over the stadium? Is there some sort of malaise? Was there a curse? What's the story with the Jets? How come they just can't get it done? Do we have a playoff this century for the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. My second year in 2015 was the last, I think, winning record. It was tough. Like I'm not. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It was tough some years, but so yeah, talking about patience and consistency, that's the Jets fans are right up there for that. But they, like when I signed there, it was Rex Ryan, and he was kind of already had a foot out the door, unfortunately. And then they brought in Todd Bowles, who I had for 4 years. I love Coach Bowles, obviously great defensive coach, and we didn't get it done. That's, it was never on him. He was always pushing us, and he had he held everyone accountable. And it's hard. Like, New York's a tough market. That's there's no doubt. And there's a lot of egos out in New York too. So things like that. But no, we thought, 2015 we went 10-6 and missed the playoffs. We thought we were coming back in 2016, like we're gonna roll, and it didn't work. And then 2017, and then but that was, and then then I left. My last year was 2019, and I was with Coach Gase, and then they fired everybody now, and they're still struggling. So I don't know. Like, you want to say, like, was it us? Was it the coaching? Is it literally a black cloud over their MetLife Stadium for the Jets and the Giants right now too? So kind of the same thing happened in Houston too. Last year we started off slow. They decided to move on from Coach O'Brien, and now you see what Houston's going through right now. They're looking not very good. So, and I was excited when I signed with the Tennessee Titans in training camp this year. And things are rolling, doing good. We were actually doing a joint practice against Coach Bowles down in Tampa Bay, and one of their players' feet got tangled up, and my arm was caught in his jersey, and we fell together, and my shoulder dislocated out. So that's what I'm doing. I had everything put back together in my right shoulder, so I'm rehabbing. So season 8, year 8 in the NFL was cut short, but I'm about halfway done with rehab now, and waiting to see what happens. I'm putting out the feelers for either potentially like end of this year if someone needs, if things work out. If that might be a little soon though, I don't want to push it too much, but definitely in the early off season, getting signed before all the real free agency mess starts, because that's free agency in itself is a very stressful time that you think one thing and you're either very right or you are very humbled. I've been on both ends of that. So this last year was a little humbling. I turned 30 and half the team said I'm too old now. So that was, I consider that a compliment now though, because like that means I've been in long enough to get told I'm old. But no, I'm excited to see what happens moving forward. I'm in a good spot. Got 7 seasons now, this injury IR season, so 8 seasons, and try to keep going until literally the wheels fall off. So it's been a blessing. I give a huge credit to Nebraska for everything, just because they, Coach Frost and the staff are, I love, like, I really do, care for all those coaches, the ones who got let go too. I've made over these last 4 years, I still go up there and train. I've made connections and, friendships with all of them. So it's always hard. It's the worst part of the business. No one ever wants to get let go, but if you've been in high level college football or the NFL, you've been fired. I've been fired, 4 times, 3 times. Like, I've been cut. I've been told, like, we're moving on from you. Like, it's just, you got to have very thick skin and a short mind, and, a short conscience, and not let it get to you, but also, build that chip on your shoulder. And that's hopefully moving forward with Nebraska too. I think they have a huge chip on their shoulder. I know, Coach Frost, everybody knows they're under a huge amount of pressure next year too. It's already been said that, Frost is back, so he knows he's got another year. And I know that they're, like, everybody knows the type of pressure that Nebraska is put under. So I'm excited. They're going to have a full off season, full spring ball, and get back at it, and hopefully, fix these close games to where we're 3-7 right now and could easily be a 7-3 team, very realistically, or 6-4, something along that. So, it's hard. I don't know any other way to put it, but it's really, really mentally straining to play at, high level and play at high level college, NFL, things like that. But also at the same time, I know what I signed up for. So it's like, you gotta just go do it. I mean, it's an everyday process. Like, a thing that I'll just leave on this. A thing that like, my mindset every season and every day, like, every single week in the NFL is like a new season, or in the college, the same, like, one guy gets hurt and all of a sudden you're playing. Like, your season just changed in a play. You see a guy get rolled up on, your season changed. And every single year is like a whole new career, because there could be a new coach. There could be some of these guys now in college, they're going to have a new O-line coach, a new quarterback coach, potentially a new OC, whatever they decide to do. Like, that's a career changing thing that you have to just show up and do it. And then the other thing that I have prided myself on, and something that I've heard, is that, like, hard work doesn't guarantee that you're going to have success and everything like that, but not working hard and not having consistency guarantees you're going to be a loser. And that's something that I pride myself on. I know these guys pride themselves on, and I'm with everybody when I hope nothing but the best for Nebraska moving forward. So
it's great talking to you, Brent. We'll watch for you on an NFL roster next year for sure. But it's great talking to you, and have a great rest of the season.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This has been Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast serving the Nebraska Greats Foundation. You can find each episode on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Please give generously to serve Nebraska's former sports heroes in need at negreats.org. And be sure to follow the Any Greats on Facebook and Twitter.